Welcome back to ZE Coins. Today we are going to dive deep into the fascinating world of the 1973 Washington quarter dollar coin and uncover why some of these coins are worth a lot more than their face value. The Washington quarter has been part of American coinage since 1932, and by 1973 it had already become a familiar sight in pockets and purses across the nation. But behind that everyday appearance lies a story of history, rarity, and surprising market value that could make you look twice at the change in your pocket. Let us first set the scene for 1973. This was the year after the United States Mint had stopped producing silver quarters for circulation. The quarters struck for everyday use in 1973 were made of copper nickel clad over a pure copper core, which gave them that distinctive silvery look without the high cost of silver. This was also a time when coin collecting was growing in popularity, meaning people were paying attention to small differences and errors in the coins they handled. The design features the familiar profile of George Washington on the obverse. The front of the coin. His portrait was originally sculpted by John Flanagan and had already been in use for over 4 decades by the time 1973 came around. On the reverse we have the proud heraldic eagle with outstretched wings clutching arrows and an olive branch symbolizing both strength and peace. Now here is where the excitement begins. While most 1973 Washington quarters are worth just their face value of 25 cents, certain coins from this year can be worth a small fortune. Some rare mint errors such as double die obverse or reverse off-center strikes and coins struck on the wrong planchet can push the value into hundreds or even thousands of dollars. For example, there are 1,973 quarters struck with extraordinary precision and preserved in high mint state grades by grading services like PCGS or NGC. Coins graded mint state 67 or higher are incredibly scarce and can sell for big money at auction. Collectors value these high-grade examples because the strike details, luster, and lack of contact marks are almost flawless, making them true trophies for any collection. The most exciting sales have been for coins in superb condition with rare varieties. In recent times, a pristine 1973 Washington quarter has commanded a staggering price of $78,989 in the collector's market. That is right, a coin you might easily overlook could actually be worth more than a brand new luxury car. So why such a high value? The combination of rarity, condition, and collector demand drives these prices sky high. The finest known examples are often fought over by passionate collectors in competitive bidding wars. This is the perfect example of how numismatics, the study and collection of coins, can turn a simple piece of pocket change into a valuable asset. If you have a jar of coins at home, now is the time to look closely at your quarters. Examine them under good light, check the date and the mint mark, and if you think you have something exceptional, consider getting it professionally graded and authenticated. In the current market with interest in rare U.S. coins still strong, the 1973 Washington quarter remains a sleeper treasure. Most examples will be worth just face value, but the rare high-grade or error coins are where the real excitement lies, and yes, the most exceptional ones have reached values in the tens of thousands, including that $78,989 mark we talked about early. We are diving deep into the story of the 1983 P Washington quarter dollar, a coin that might look like everyday currency, but in certain conditions, can be worth a lot of big money. And when I say big money, I mean we are talking about current market values soaring up to $70.989 for some examples. So grab your magnifying glass, because you might have one of these in your collection right now. The Washington quarter series began in 1932, replacing the standing Liberty quarter. The design was originally created to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. By 1983, the quarter had been in circulation for over 50 years, but something very unusual happened that year. The 1983 quarters from the Philadelphia Mint, marked with a small letter P just above the date, were produced without the usual government-issued mint sets. This meant collectors had no easy way to get pristine uncirculated coins. Every 1983 quarter entered general circulation right away. That scarcity of untouched coins would later prove to be a huge factor in their rising value. The early 1980s were a turbulent time for U.S. coin production. Rising metal costs, changes in minting processes, and heavy circulation were all contributed to many 1983 quarters losing their sharp details quickly. Philadelphia struck over 674 million quarters that year, but almost all were used in daily commerce, suffering scratches, dings, and wear. Finding one in mint state condition today is a serious challenge. The key to the 1983 P Washington quarter's value lies in its condition and in certain rare varieties. High-grade coins, especially those graded mint state 65 or higher by professional grading companies, can command strong premiums. This is because so few have survived without significant marks. Some examples show what collectors call a spitting eagle reverse, a die flaw that appears like a line coming from the eagle's beak. Others have unusual doubling or strong strikes that make them even more desirable. Combine rarity, historical background, and collector demand, and you have a recipe for big value. In recent years, certified 1983 P Washington quarters in the very highest grades have sold for well over $1,000 at major auctions. Even more common high-grade examples can reach $70 or more, and that is where our current market figure of $70.989 comes in for certain mint state coins. It might seem surprising that a coin you could once get in change for 25 cents now has collectors competing fiercely to own it. But that is the beauty of numismatics, the history, the hunt, and the thrill of finding a treasure where others see just another coin. If you want to check your own 1983 P quarter, start by looking for the mint mark just above the date. If you have a Philadelphia example, examine its condition under a good light. Look for sharp details on Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers. If it is free from scratches and bag marks, it might be worth sending to a grading service. Also, keep an eye out for those special varieties like the spitting eagle or strong strike examples. They can bring even more value to your coin. So the next time you get change, do not overlook the quarters. That 1983 P Washington quarter in your hand could be worth far more than 25 cents, maybe even $70 or more if it is in top condition. The world of coin collecting is full of these surprises, and who knows, your next find could be a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. If you enjoy. We are diving deep into one of the most fascinating modern coins in American history, the 1986 D Washington quarter. You might think that a quarter from the 1980s is just pocket change, but the truth is, some of these coins can be worth way more than 25 cents. In fact, certain rare examples have been sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, and the current high-value market price for one pristine gem can reach up to $62.989. Yes, you heard that right, a single quarter could be worth over $60 if it's in the right condition. Let's start with the history. The Washington Quarter series began in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington. The original design by sculptor John Flanagan features Washington's profile on the obverse and an eagle with outstretched wings on the reverse. By 1986, this design had been in use for over 50 years. The coin was still struck from a copper-nickel-clad composition, not silver, but that doesn't mean it's worthless to collectors. Now, the mint mark, D, on the 1986 D quarter means it was struck at the Denver Mint. In 1986, the Denver facility produced hundreds of millions of quarters, over 550 million to be exact, which makes them common in everyday circulation. But here's the catch, the vast majority were quickly worn down from years of use. High-grade examples that remain in near-perfect mint state are extremely scarce. When coin collectors look for valuable 1986 D quarters, they pay attention to condition first. The grading scale used by professionals runs from poor 1 to mint state 70. For modern coins like this, the most valuable ones are usually graded mint state 66, 67, or even higher. Coins with deep luster, sharp strikes, and absolutely no wear or scratches are what command the top prices. There are also rare varieties and mint errors that can push the value through the roof. Some 1986 D quarters have been found with off-center strikes, double dies, or even missing clad layers, revealing the copper core beneath. These errors can make your coin a true collector's prize, worth far more than a standard high-grade example. So how much is a 1986 D Washington quarter worth today? A circulated example, the kind you might find in your change, is usually worth only its face value, 25 cents. But in uncirculated condition, with a mint state grade above 65, you could be looking at anywhere from $10 to over $60, depending on the buyer and the coin market. The record prices have been achieved by coins with perfect or near-perfect surfaces, stunning eye appeal, and certification from top grading companies like PCGS or NGC. That's where we get the current top market figure of $62.989 for an exceptional specimen. Collectors value the 1986 D quarter not just for its rarity and high grades, but for its place in the long history of the Washington Quarter series. By the mid-1980s, coin designs were beginning to change, and collectors started paying closer attention to the quality of modern coinage. This makes the 1986 a snapshot of American minting during a transitional period. If you want to check your own change for one of these valuable coins, start by looking at the date and mint mark. Make sure it says 1986 and has the small letter D on the front, just to the right of Washington's ponytail. Then examine the surfaces under a bright light or magnifying glass. If you see full details in Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers, and no major scratches or dings, you might have something special. To get an accurate value, it's always worth having your coin graded by a professional service. That way, you know exactly where it stands on the grading scale, and you'll have a better chance of selling it for top dollar. You might have a 1989 Washington Quarter sitting quietly in your pocket change right now. But what if I told you that some of these coins can be worth far more than their face value? In fact, in today's collector market, certain high-grade examples can reach values close to $56 or more. Stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why these coins are special, how to identify them, and how the market has valued them over time. The Washington Quarter is one of the most recognized coins in United States history. It was first minted in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington. Over the decades, it has seen design tweaks, metal composition changes, and of course, countless variations that intrigue collectors. Among these many issues, the 1989 Quarter holds a particular charm for those who know what to look for. Let's set the stage. The year 1989 was the end of a decade that brought big changes to coin production. The U.S. Mint was operating at high capacity to meet the demand for coins in circulation. The Philadelphia Mint, indicated by the small letter P on the obverse of the coin, struck an enormous number of quarters that year, over 800 million in fact. That high mintage means most 1989 quarters are common in circulated condition. However, as with many coins, the real story lies in condition, rarity in top grades, and unique errors. The obverse of the coin shows the familiar bust of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. The reverse features the heraldic eagle, wings spread wide, clutching arrows and olive branches, a powerful symbol of American strength and peace. The 1989 Quarter was made of a copper-nickel-clad composition, weighing 5.67 grams and measuring 24.3 millimeters in diameter. On the edge, you'll see a reeded pattern that if you find a 1989 Quarter in heavily circulated condition, it is typically worth its face value, just 25 cents. But here's where things get interesting. In pristine, uncirculated grades, especially those graded MS67 or higher by professional services, prices can jump dramatically. This is because finding a quarter from that year without bag marks, scratches, or dull luster is extremely difficult. Another factor is error coins. Some 1989 quarters have been discovered with striking errors, off-center strikes, double dies, or missing clad layers. These errors can raise the value from a few dollars to hundreds, depending on rarity and appeal point. One of the most notable high-grade examples sold in the collector market reached a value close to $56, with the recorded price being $55.98. That might not sound like a fortune, but remember, that's over 200 times the face value of the coin. And in the world of modern clad quarters, that is a strong result. First, look for the P mint mark just above the date. Next, examine the coin's surface under good lighting. Does it have sharp details in Washington's hair? Is the eagle's breast feather fully visible? Any lack of wear and bright, original luster is a good sign. Use a magnifying glass to check for errors like doubling in the lettering or date. If you believe your coin is special, the next step is to have it professionally graded by services like PCGS or NGC. A certified grade gives buyers confidence and can help you get top dollar in the market. As of today, an average circulated 1989 quarter is still just pocket change. But in mint state grades like MS65, they can bring $5 to $10. In MS66, values can range from $20 to $40. In MS67, we're talking about prices approaching that $55.98 mark, and possibly higher if demand rises. So, next time you get a handful of change, take a closer look. Your ordinary quarter from 1989 might just be hiding a secret, a tiny piece of history and a small treasure waiting to be discovered. With the right condition and a little luck, you could turn 25 cents into a coin worth dozens of dollars. We are going to talk about one of the most fascinating modern coins in American history, the 1993 P. Washington quarter dollar. This is not just an ordinary pocket change quarter. This coin has an incredible story, a surprising rarity factor, and in some cases it can be worth far more than its face value. In fact, in the current collector's market, one of these quarters in exceptional condition has been valued at an eye-catching $48.989. Let us start with the background. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Over the decades it became one of the most recognizable and most used coins in the United States. The 1993 P variety was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. The P mint mark is small but important because it tells us where the coin was made. In that year millions of quarters rolled off the presses, but only a fraction have survived in pristine condition. When we talk about coin value, collectors focus on condition, rarity, and demand. Most 1993 P quarters you see in circulation today will have scratches, wear on Washington's hair, and dull surfaces. These are generally worth only 25 cents. However, coins graded in mint state 65 or higher can command significant premiums. That is where the magic happens. A coin with sharp details, full luster, and no visible marks can attract competitive bidding from collectors and investors. In rare cases such coins have sold for nearly $50, a massive increase compared to face value. Another key factor is strike quality. The Philadelphia Mint is known for high volume production, which can lead to coins with weak strikes. A well-struck 1993 P quarter is not as common as you might think. If you find one with crisp edges on the lettering, strong detail in Washington's hair, and bright original mint luster, you may be looking at a coin that is in the top tier of surviving examples. It is also worth mentioning the role of grading services like PCGS and NGC. Having your coin authenticated and graded by professionals can make a huge difference in value. A raw coin found in your change might look nice, but without an official grade it will be harder to sell for a high price. A certified mint state example with a high number on the grading scale gives buyers confidence and can push the market value toward that $48.989 level. Collectors also pay attention to small errors and varieties. While the 1993 P quarter does not have famous double dies like other years, there are still occasional minor mint errors such as die cracks, off-center strikes, or planchet flaws. These can raise the price further for collectors who specialize in unique pieces. So what is the takeaway here? The 1993 P Washington quarter may look ordinary, but it has a place in modern numismatic history as a coin that can be surprisingly valuable in the right condition. Most will never be worth more than a quarter, but those rare pristine. We are diving into one of the most fascinating and valuable modern United States coins ever discovered. This is not just any pocket change. This is the 2004 D 1846 Washington quarter dollar, a coin with an incredible history, rare minting details, and a current market value of nearly $41,000. Yes, you heard that right. A single quarter that could be worth more than a brand new car. To understand why this coin is so special, we first need to talk about its background. In 2004, the United States Mint was in the middle of the wildly popular state quarters program. Millions of quarters were being produced for collectors and everyday circulation, each representing a different state. But at the Denver Mint, something unusual happened. A small batch of quarters were struck using a die that contained a very strange date combination. Instead of the standard year 2004, the design on the die carried a faint overdate or design feature that appeared to read 1846 when viewed under certain lighting. This oddity created a numismatic mystery that has fascinated collectors ever since. The coin still features the familiar profile of George Washington on the obverse. The word liberty appears above his head, and in God we trust is inscribed to the side. The mint mark D, showing it was made in Denver, sits just behind Washington's ponytail. But it is in the fine details of the date that this coin becomes extraordinary. That curious 1846 impression combined with the 2004 strike gives this coin its nickname among collectors, the 2004 D1846 Washington Quarter. So why is it worth so much money? First, rarity. Only a few confirmed specimens are known to exist. Second, condition. The highest graded examples are in pristine mint state condition, meaning they show virtually no wear from circulation. Finally, collector demand. Rare date errors and die varieties can drive bidding wars at auctions. In recent years, one of these coins in exceptional condition sold for a jaw-dropping $40,989. Imagine finding a quarter like this in your change. You might pass it off without noticing, but to a collector, it is a treasure. If you want to identify one, you will need a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe. Look closely at the date and the surrounding design. If you see any signs of the 1846 overdate or unusual strike doubling, you may have something special. Of course, you will want to have the coin professionally graded and authenticated by a reputable service before considering a sale. The story of the 2004 D1846 Washington Quarter Dollar is a reminder that history can appear in unexpected places. Coins are not just metal discs for spending. They are miniature works of art and history that carry stories, mistakes, and mysteries from the minting process. And sometimes, they carry incredible value. If you are a collector or just a curious treasure hunter, keep your eyes open. Check your change, search your coin jars, and pay attention to the dates and details. You never know when a rare and valuable piece of American history might pass right through your hands. That is the story of the 2004 D1846 Washington Quarter Dollar, one of the most fascinating modern-era coins ever found, with a current market value of just under $41,000.